Hey now, a lovely colleague of mine hooked me up with actually a whole bunch of rhubarb, fresh rhubarb the other day. So I figured my first thought was, let's make some kombucha. We're gonna make a rhubarb ginger kombucha. Let's go. So step one with this rhubarb here is I'm just gonna cut off the ends here where it was cut when it was harvested. And I'm just going to cut it lengthwise once and then just give it a rough chop here. Just trying to make as much of this rhubarb, I'm not sure this is rhubarb and not celery, just trying to make it accessible for the bacteria in my secondary fermenter. So I'm going to get both of these all chopped up here and then peel my ginger and we'll be ready to fire it in. Okay, so I've got my two 2-liter swing top jars here that I really like using for secondary fermentations. I sanitize them with some Star San sanitizer that I generally use in my brewing. And I really like that just because it kind of helps create a little bit of a clean slate here. I am adding, this is probably somewhere just over a half cup, probably like a heaping half cup of this peeled and rough chopped fresh ginger. And it's more than that, probably a good cup each of these, of this rhubarb here. We're gonna get this all in. And then it's time to get the kombucha in. So I'm really hoping for like some nice tartness, some spiciness out of that ginger. We're gonna find out how that goes. Okay, so I am ready to fill. I've got my primary fermenter here, and you can check out my video on just how I like to make my initial kombucha. It was just made with four organic green tea bags, 1 black tea bag, 200 grams of sugar, and some filtered water, and that made this 4-liter container here. Now there is definitely some yeast that's settled out on the bottom here, some bacteria and whatnot. So I like to fill both of these containers up just a little bit. And then I can swirl up this jar without splashing everything out of the top. Try to kick up as much of this sediment as possible just so I can get it into these containers. That's about even there. So now just taking this, swirling it up. There, that's quite a bit cloudier now. All that sweet goodness there in solution, and we'll top these up. Woo! Got a little hunk of SCOBY stuff coming through there. All right, fill up the second part. Okay, there we are. Time to get these into the cabinet. And here we are in the kitchen cabinet. I'm going to use a whiteboard marker just to get the date on here. And I'll give these probably 3 days fermenting here, just kind of popping this swing top and burping it probably every morning and every evening. And the next day we can see that there's some nice little fermentation activity happening here in these swing top jars. So I'm going to let them keep going here for another couple of days probably, just to get some really nice rhubarb flavor in there. After 4 days here, with this rhubarb and this ginger kicking around in here, it's still super cloudy, lots of stuff going on here. I noticed that this isn't quite as fizzy as my kombucha normally is. I'm just guessing that there's sort of a difference in the amount of sugars in this rhubarb than in some of the other fruits that I use. But regardless, I'm just going to go ahead and kick this up. Like so, you can see there is some foaming there, so there is some carbonation that's accumulating. Now, just to make sure that I get decent carbonation in the finished products here, because I'm going to be bottling this, I'm just going to be adding a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar to each of these bottles just to prime it. And I'm straining the kombucha just through this metal sieve here, just to catch solids. Adding the sugar here, right here to the funnel, is going to help ensure that I actually get all of it into each bottle individually. That was really in a great spot to block the shot. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and repeat with all 8 of these bottles. So So I have all 8 of these bottles filled up. They've got that priming sugar in there just to help ensure good carbonation in all of these bottles. I'm going to get them back into that kitchen cabinet for a few days here and let that carbonation take place. After a few days of bottle carbonating and then chilling down, let's give this a taste. Definitely nicely carbonated. Look at that. That carbonation level is spot on. Adding that little 1/4 teaspoon of sugar definitely got it where it needed to be. I don't think that the rhubarb and the ginger would have gotten it there on its own. As far as flavor, that rhubarb is really coming through nicely. A very pleasant tartness. I think that maybe the fermentation there actually kind of rounded off some of the potentially harsher edges of the rhubarb. It's really, really nice. And then that slight spiciness coming out of the ginger is a great complement for that rhubarb. Fantastic. Super refreshing, delicious, a great use of some locally grown backyard produce from a colleague. So fantastic. Give it a whirl, and until next time, keep it at 11.